Alright, no skits, no funny business. Today I'm here to talk about Twin Peaks The Return episodes 15 and 16. Today, to give you a little bit of context, is currently Monday, the 4th of September 2017. The finale of Twin Peaks The Return aired last night, literally 8 or 9 hours ago. I got up early this morning just especially to watch the last two episodes, probably ever, of Twin Peaks. But before I get to that, I needed to sit down, get some housekeeping out of the way and talk about episodes 15 and 16, which I've neglected to do because I've been so busy with the finishing and releasing of 24-Hour Movie Marathon 6. So thank you to everyone who watched that and enjoyed it, and more importantly contributed to our charity fundraiser. Cannot thank you enough, and I'll do that in a separate video coming up soon. So I'm literally, I could be sat down watching episode 17 right now, and I was so blown away on Friday night to find out that both of the last episodes were being aired this weekend, or last weekend. I thought there was going to be episode 17, next week episode 18, going off the fact that 16 was last Sunday, 17 would be this Sunday, 18 the Sunday afterwards. So I was mentally prepared for another week of being in that great position where something you love isn't over just yet. But then I was hit with the shocking realization that holy shit, Twin Peaks is ending in 3 days. I'm both incredibly excited for that, and at the same time I'm not ready to say goodbye to this world that I have become such a huge fan of in such a ridiculously short span of time. But anyway, episodes 15 and 16, I'm not going to go through everything, obviously, and I'm just eager to get to episodes 17 and 18 and finish this thing, but the things I want to talk about are basically key moments that I think were so emotionally powerful. Through episodes 15 and 16, I teared up and was hit with an emotion in almost every single way. So many great moments in episodes 15 and 16. We'll start with episode 15, where the whole first kind of 10-15 minutes is dedicated pretty much entirely to the Ed and Norma storyline, which hadn't really been touched on until the second half of this season. We didn't see Ed for, I think, until episode 12, 13, and they kind of fake us out with the first time we see Ed. He's sat in the Double R diner with Norma. They're kind of looking happy and smiling. It's like, oh, they managed to finally get it together after all these years, or, you know, maybe they pick things up where they left off shortly after the end of the second season. And then we find out, no, they're not together. They're still friendly, but it's very much the same as it was 25 years ago, where they want to be together, but things just seem to be getting in their way. It's not very clear whether Ed is still with Nadine and has stayed with her out of loyalty because she's always at her silent drape runner shop, but she's very much enamored with Dr. Jacoby and has taken his shovel yourself out of the shit mentality and put it into full effect with her life, and has stormed up to Ed's gas farm and said, Ed, you're free. You and Norma belong together. I've been a bitch to you all these years, you know. And he's like, oh, come on, Nadine. Tomorrow you're gonna, you know, take back everything you said. She's like, no, I mean it, seriously. Go to her, you know. And then she leaves. And Everett McGill's performance in that scene when she leaves, and that realization that he can finally be free to go and be with the woman that he has loved almost his entire life. It was a beautiful moment, and it's so great that Everett McGill was a part of this series because I think he retired from acting. It's a great story where David Lynch was trying to get in touch with him, and no one knew how to get in touch with Everett McGill. So Lynch put out on Twitter, said, I don't know how to get in touch with this guy. And he got a phone number, and he called that phone number. Everett McGill picked up, and they had a chat, and David Lynch was like, is this a good number to reach you on? And Everett McGill was like, well, no, actually, I'm rarely ever here. This phone hasn't rung in like 6, 7, 8 years. You know, it was at his mother-in-law's house that he's hardly ever at. So it was just this really lucky accident that they got to get back in touch with each other, and he was in the show. So anyway, a big fan of Ed, and I think that he's been great in this season, even though he's had a very short number of scenes. And then he goes to the diner, and it's just so, it's beautiful. It really is beautiful. There's no other word to put it when this 70-year-old man walks through the diner, sees the love of his life, and kind of puts his hand up and has this smile on his face like he's a teenager again. There's just something so sweet and special about that moment. And then he goes up and tells her, and it's a little cheesy, which, you know, Twin Peaks has always indulged in. He's like, Norma, you know, I finally got my freedom. And she kind of brushes him off and goes off with this other guy that she's been dating. And so Ed just sits down, he's kind of deflated. Shelley's like, do you want a coffee? And he's like, yeah, and a cyanide pill. And it's like, ooh. Awkward. And then he sat there, and this awesome song is playing, this very kind of 50s style kind of, it's just great piece of music selection there from David Lynch, who rarely uses actual songs in his stuff, from what I've seen anyway. But it worked beautifully in this moment, and he sat there, and he closes his eyes, and he just kind of takes deep breaths, and Norma brushes off this guy. And that's when you realise that she is going to go with Ed, but she's just kind of wrapping things up first before she does so. And she goes up to him, and well, actually the way that we see it is that he's got his eyes closed, and he's kind of, it's like he's almost willing this moment to happen, you know, like, make my dreams come true. And her hand appears on his shoulder, and he turns around and he says, Norma, will you marry me? And she's like, of course I will. And they kiss, and it's just, oh, it was just so awesome. It was so awesome. And this wasn't just a resolution to these characters who have had this history going back 25 years in TV. It's just this really nice, sweet moment that tells you that sometimes, you know, it's never too late for love, you know, which is something that is just, you know, it's true. Sometimes it will take you that long to really put all the pieces together, and it's kind of sad when that happens, but at least you can celebrate that moment. And those two characters in that moment, they're truly happy. And I've seen people online say, well, this is clearly not a real scene. This is because Ed his eyes were closed in the diner. He must have been dreaming this whole thing. There's no way Lynch would give us a perfect happy ending to any of his characters. And it's like, well, it's just a sincere moment. Take it. You know? I loved it. I thought it was brilliant. So well done, and one of my favourite moments of the whole Twin Peaks by far. And, you know, you could have done that scene in a hypothetical season 3 of Twin Peaks in like 1992, and it would have been nice. It would have been like, oh, finally, you know. But with that weight of time, and the fact that it took these two characters 45 years to finally be together, it is tragic, but it's also beautiful. And I've used those words far too much now, so suffice to say, I love that scene and that moment. We see Bad Cooper going on this odyssey to the Dutchman's above the convenience store, and he meets with Philip Jeffries, David Bowie's character, who's now voiced by another actor, though Bowie is still credited as the character. And it's this big kind of oversized kettle in a way. And there's a very funny image people have been sharing online of David Bowie with a kettle. It's David Bowie and Philip Jeffries. So I like how they've kind of kept his character going, and there's a lot of mystery there, and I'm not too sure what to make of a lot of it. But it's been intriguing to see that stuff developed and explored further. Bad Cooper meets up with Richard Horne, who dies in episode 16, gets electrocuted and vaporized into nothing, to which Bad Cooper says, "Goodbye, my son." So is he the father? Which would mean that Audrey would have thought that she slept with Cooper, which is kind of quite dark. Anyway, I wonder if we'll hear anything about that in episode 17 and 18. Moving on from that, we had, I don't know which one to go to first, the Log Lady in episode 15. We saw the demise of Margaret, and it was very tastefully done. You know, we get a shot of the cabin outside, and the light goes out. Very, very nicely done, and her kind of final speech was so brilliantly delivered by the actress. And what a trooper. You know, she was ill when she made this, at least, unless she did an incredibly good job. But from what I understand, she was, you know, on death's door basically when this show was being filmed. And I think that she would be extremely proud that she got to be such a big part of this show, you know, and was in it across almost the entire series, and had these really good scenes between her and Hawk across the phone. It was a great way of doing it. And I loved the humanity shown in her final scene from Hawk. Because, you know, I think in most situations, if you were to talk to someone who is about to die, you know, you'd be like, oh, I'm so sorry, like, you know, well, you know, there'd be this kind of overly emphatic reaction. Whereas Hawk, with his very unique sensibility, all he says to her, kind of saying, "I'm dying, Hawk," and he says, "I'm sorry, Margaret," and that is all he says. And there's just something so so deep about that. And I don't like deep, man, but like, you know, there just really is something to say about that, and handling death in that way, in this kind of, well, it's gonna reach us all at some point, and I'm sorry. And then she hangs up, and he's like, "Goodbye, Margaret." I mean, it's very simplistic, but in that sense even more powerful, I think. And so I thought that was so wonderfully done and realized, and a great way to send off the character, and indeed the actress herself, very sadly. Episode 16, we got the big moment of Cooper coming back. And what I loved was that in episode 15, we see Dougie / Cooper sat in his house, and on the TVs playing Sunset Boulevard. Any fan of Sunset Boulevard will kind of realize and click into place that David Lynch's character in Twin Peaks, Gordon Cole, is named after a character in Sunset Boulevard. So how funny that he actually used a clip from the movie in this new series, and it was a plot device for the show, where Cooper hears the name Gordon Cole on the TV, and that kind of sparks him into something, and he looks at the open electrical socket and kind of maybe remembers that that's how he came back into this world. So he crawls towards it, puts the fork in, gets electrocuted. Episode 16 we pick up he's in a coma. The Mitchums are there, they're very helpful and stuff, and I love how the Mitchums have become such a great set of characters. At first they're just these stereotypical kind of, you know, casino running heavies, you know, very gruff and kind of, you know, oh, I'm gonna kill him, you know, and then they just become these kind of sweet puppy dogs. I just love the transition. It's really fun. Maybe not the most realistic, but I really enjoy the Mitchum brothers, and they've become some of my favorite characters of the new season. I think I've already said that, but it just continues in this episode. And so they're there, they're very helpful to Janie and Sonny Jim, and then Cooper wakes up and he gets a visit from the one-armed man, the arm, through the Red Room, and he basically jumps into action, Cooper style, and says, I need you to make another Dougie, basically. Here's one of my hairs, you know, because he knows that him leaving, he can't stay with Janie and Sonny Jim, but they're going to feel the loss of Dougie. So he's very keen to have another Dougie manufactured for them. So what I loved about Cooper coming back is not only the fact that David Lynch said, okay, well, people want to see all these characters again. People want to see Cooper again. He's the star of the show. Let's wait 16 hours before we give the people Cooper. Let's make him different. Let's give Carl MacLachlan an acting challenge and see if he can pull this off. And boy, did he pull it off. I mean, he is just such an incredible actor and made this work in a way that I don't think a lot of actors would have been able to. It would have been excruciating, but I think that he had such a way of conveying stuff from behind the eyes that had you always thinking about what's really going on behind those eyes of Dougie / Cooper. And so he wakes up in the hospital, and he's back to Cooper straight away. There's been, it feels like a day hasn't passed, and he's jumping into action. He's like, get me my clothes, get me the FBI on the phone, you know, give me that gun that's holstered in your jacket. You know, he just knows everything. But what made it even better than the line when he's like, I am the FBI, which is like, you know, that's like Cooper's kind of I am the danger, you know, I am the one who knocks, you know. Great line, delivered perfectly. And when he gets back into Cooper mode and he drives off with Janie and Sonny Jim, the Twin Peaks theme starts playing, and I was just like, I was grinning from ear to ear, tears were welling out. I just thought it was fantastic. I thought it was so well done. But what absolutely killed me was at the very end of the episode when they go to the casino and Cooper says to Janie E and Sonny Jim, look, listen, I'm going away for a while, but I'll be back, okay? And he kind of insinuates without meaning to, like he says, Dougie, I mean, I will be back. And you get this realization from Janie E, and perhaps she thought it all along in some strange way, but never thought it could really be true, that this wasn't Dougie, this wasn't her husband. And Sonny Jim is like, but you're my dad, and oh God, just thinking about it now, when Carl MacLachlan, Cooper, says, that's right, I'm your dad, Sonny Jim, I'm your dad, and I love you, and he gives him a hug, and it's just, it's heartbreaking because, like I said, I've been building up to this. The best thing about this whole Cooper coming back thing is that he was aware the entire time. It wasn't just this, oh, where am I? I thought I was in the Black Lodge, you know, which would have been fine, but he was aware the whole time, trying to break through, trying to guide himself, and he couldn't quite get there. And so the fact that he was aware, and knowing how much of a big-hearted character Cooper is, this is a guy who has so much love to give, and whenever he kind of opened himself up to love, previously in his life, it always was ripped away from him, quite tragically, with Caroline, with Annie. You know, I mean, he literally sacrificed his life to save Annie, you know. This is a guy with so much love inside him, and such a sensitive soul, that, you know, he gets a family for the first time in his life, a wife and a son, and he loves them. He grew to love them, but now he has to say goodbye again, because he can't truly stay with them, and it's just so heartbreaking. And then again, I loved how she ran up to him and said, I don't know who you are, but thank you. I'm so glad we got that moment where we realized fully that Janie E knew this wasn't Dougie. It was just such a perfectly realized moment from all of the build-up. And who would have thought, at least myself, that the most powerful moment so far would be a moment that's been created through these new characters, and it wasn't something like an Ed and Norma scene, which was tremendously satisfying. But this, to me, this Cooper, Janie E and Sonny Jim scene at the casino was the best moment of the entire show. One of my favorite scenes in any TV show. It was just a perfect capping off of such a build-up, and you know, heartbreaking, but you know, satisfying at the same time. And so yeah, I don't know if we'll ever see those two characters again, and maybe we'll see it wrapped up, but God, Cooper's had a rough go of things, he really has. Anyway, the end of episode 16, we saw Audrey finally arrive at the Roadhouse, which has been a bit of a shocker because a lot of people seem to think that she was trapped in some kind of hell in limbo, that she was dead, that she died in the explosion at the bank, which is kind of impossible because she needed to give birth to Richard Horn first, or that she'd been in a coma the whole time, and maybe she could have been pregnant from the, what's his name, the knobhead from Titanic. But if Bad Cooper is the father of Richard Horn, then obviously she didn't die or go into a coma after the bank explosion at the end of season 2. But nonetheless, something very strange is going on with her. And she does Audrey's dance in the Roadhouse, which is very surreal and very Audrey-esque. And then suddenly we get this shot of her in a white room when she's looking into a mirror and she's got no makeup on and she's screaming. And what the hell was that all about? You know, is there any meaning to all these scenes at the end, at the Roadhouse every single time? I don't know. So I think I've exhausted every option here and talked about pretty much everything. Oh, also the rounding up of the Tim Roth and Jennifer Jason Leigh characters was very appropriate to those characters. A very grim and darkly funny ending to their characters, an appropriate ending. And I love how we had the Mitchum brothers delivering some food and stocking the house of Janie E and Sonny Jim, and they kind of looked over and they're just like, you know, Jesus Christ, what's going on? Bradley. These people have got a lot going. Like, just a great, I forgot what the line is now, but there's just loads of great lines. Very funny show. And I've forgotten the line, so that moment of me kind of recreating it kind of fell flat on its face. But if you've seen it, you know what I mean. Something to the effect of, you know, Bradley, these people have got a lot of things going on right now. These people are under a lot of pressure in the suburbs. That was kind of the gist of the joke. I'll leave it there. I'm about to sit down and watch the final episodes. Holy shit. It's been a long time coming, and yet for me it's been a short time coming. 3 months ago I'd never seen a single frame of the show. It's now one of my favorite shows of all time, and I think that this season, The Return, has been overall, as far as consistency and quality, been better than probably anything than the original series had to offer, even if those first kind of 10, 12, 14 episodes of Twin Peaks are really where it's at its strongest, you know, with that vibe and everything. But The Return has been so solid, and far from perfect, but I mean, you know, flawed yet brilliant, I think, is a phrase that you could apply to pretty much every aspect of Twin Peaks, and I think that definitely applies here. And I'm really intrigued to see how they end it, what we're going to see. You know, we're going to see the two Coopers do battle. You know, who's going to live, who's going to die, who's going to be revealed to be this, who's going to be revealed to be that, how are we going to wrap it up? It seems impossible to me that this is going to be wrapped up in a neat conclusion. And will we see a season 4? I don't think we will, and maybe it's best if we don't. Maybe it's best that David Lynch just leaves this on a tremendous high note, which, you know, a lot of TV shows don't end up doing. But it's been an incredibly surreal return, and I'm going to watch and react to the final episodes and give you my final thoughts probably later on tonight. So, it's a double bill today on the channel. So I'm going to get this rendered, get this online today on Monday the 4th, and then finish the show. I'm rambling, I'm delaying, I'm prolonging the inevitable. I don't want to say goodbye just yet, but let me know your thoughts on episode 15 and 16, or The Return in its entirety. Don't leave any spoilers for episode 17 and 18 below this video, just in case anyone else is watching it and haven't caught up yet. And I will see you very soon with the following video. I'm really nervous. Alright, let's do it. Thanks for watching, see you in the next one.
He's alright by me. Apart from the fact he throws cans and calling into a tree. Yeah, he's really cool. Yeah, he's really cool. But he's not quite as cool as you.